Our friend Steven Crowder has launched a new initiative called Stop Big Con. I find it really tragic that we're having this kind of a conversation. Ben and I tried to do some even movie deals with Steven before there was CRTV and before there was a Daily Wire. He only wanted to know about the money. I'm sure he feels like he was being accurate, but some of the things that he said are simply not true.
Uh-oh, he called him a liar. Y'all heard it first here, folks. He called him a liar. You heard it here first, folks. You heard it first here. I don't know how you're supposed to say it, but he did say that he was lying. You know what I mean? I want to see where he was lying.
Based on the text. And you know, Steven's a very passionate guy. I think that he's doing his level best to stand against what he sees as an injustice, but there is no injustice in this document, as I think you'll see. $50 million for the initial term, plus $25 million for the renewal term, if extended, paid in monthly installments.
Oh, sheesh. My gracious. So monthly, this brother is pulling in $1,041,666.67 monthly. Good gracious. Goodness gracious. Oh my God.
Crowder will bear the burden of production, including all costs associated therewith, on all the content contemplated herein, except on the quarterly and annual content contemplated below. The quality of the production will be as good as or better than is currently existing. Revenue collection, that says we'll have the exclusive right to realize revenue in connection with all of his content and brand. We're paying you this guaranteed significant amount of money, $50 million. And for that, one of the things we're buying is the content, but we're also buying the right to monetize the content so that we can have a chance of making some money and not just spending money.
So he's talking about the product that they are receiving so that they can actually make money, so it can actually be an investment. Because that's the part that we need to really understand. We need to understand about how does Daily Wire get their money, get their return. If they're paying him $50 million over the course of 4 years, what are they expecting to be paid? What are they expecting to receive? And that's the part that we need to understand, because all this other stuff, like it's right now, $1 million per month was coming to Steven Crowder without any fines, but we're getting there.
The daily content is going to be very obvious to you. He'll deliver a 1.5 hour Louder with Crowder audio video show. They'll be filmed in studio daily, Monday through Thursday. At least 1 hour of them will be outside the paywall. That's much how Steven already operates. That's the part that goes out on podcasting. It's the part that goes out on YouTube. It's the part that goes out on Rumble. And at least 30 minutes inside the DW Plus paywall. Crowder can bank or pre-record a limited number of episodes. So we're saying once a month he would have to do a 90-minute all access and any promotions and ad reads that would go in that. Right now there are no ad reads in all access, but again, you're giving yourself, it's a 4, possibly 6-year deal. You're giving yourself a little latitude for things to change.
I like that 90-minute Q&A, one-on-one. How does that happen? Do they do that via live streaming? I like that. Once a month Q&A, an hour and a half video. That's all. Read the ads. 4 days a week. That's all. He gets 4 weeks off. Are you kidding me? So it's like a lot of people will look at this and automatically assume that this is so super easy, but it's more.
And annual content. This was a new concept. We said that Steven would do one feature-length entertainment special. That's like a stand-up comedy special. And that Steven would do one feature-length political special. And that's like a documentary like What is a Woman? You know, this is something we're doing with all of our talent now. You saw it first with What is a Woman with Matt. Then in addition to his daily show, he brought us this amazing documentary. You saw it with Candace with Greatest Lie Ever Sold. Political documentary, we'd give another $1.25 million of production costs. In the case of the entertainment, depends on how it breaks down, but we'd give between $500,000 and $2.5 million more dollars.
I'm sorry, guys. So let me tell you something. So far, I'm not going to give away what side I'm on yet. I'm not, because I'm paying attention. But God gracious, I'm paying attention.
So, you know, you're talking about just this is more than 8 figures over the 4 years, in addition to the 50 over the next 4 years. If we and Crowder mutually agree to create additional content not currently contemplated, then we'd pay him $15,000 a day for that shoot. And again, a lot of that would be days he was already shooting, so that's just a little extra money in his pocket if we do something
A little extra money in his pocket if he decide to shoot another day. Okay. All right, since you working overtime, bro, we're going to go ahead and give you $15,000. Just a little bit of money to have in your pocket, man. You working overtime. We're going to give you $15,000. I ain't going to BS y'all. I am on Daily Wire side so far. I'm sorry. But this is a lot of daggone money, man. This a lot of money. What the hell? Are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh my gracious, that's a lot of daggone. Do you not know, man? This, oh my goodness. Okay, let me shut up. Let me be, ooh.
Extra. Item 6, the back catalog. Crowder will license his entire back catalog, including without limitation, every past episode of Louder with Crowder to us during the term.
I don't know if y'all remember, but I asked earlier in the video, how do they plan on making that $50 million back? If they're offering him $50 million, then they have to have a number in their minds of what they're trying to make. The minimum they're trying to make is 100 based off of all the extra fees they will incur by having him paying them what they're paying them. But they let him know anything that's your likeness, anything that your name is on right now, as big as you are, we are going to be running that now. We are going to receive money from that now directly. But it makes sense to me. How else are they going to get their money? Steven Crowder is about his money. He's very talented, very intelligent. He busts his tail to get to where he is right now. He earned this to be able to negotiate for $50 million on a contract to do exactly what they do on MSNBC and Fox and all these places and still have complete, like, he's free to do his own thing. I still want him to get to the demonetization part.
Item B, Crowder will read the ad copy and promos as requested by us, though he'll have certain rights to disapprove of some ad sponsors for various reasons, right? He can disapprove of like 10% of the ones we bring him. He can disapprove if he owns equity in a direct competitor of one of the advertisers that we bring him. But point D, if he doesn't read the requested ads within that framework, then the content that he made won't be counted as delivered under the contract, because it's all fine and good that he made a piece of content, but if we can't make any money off of it, then we're just paying him so that he can make a show. We're not paying him so that we can participate in any of the success of that show.
All right. So what if he does not read the ad for that video, but he installs the same reading of the ad that he read before? Like, he's probably already had recordings and he can put it on there. Would that fix it? I mean, or are all of theirs live or something? Like, do they have to do them live in order to receive that type of money? I need to hear that. Like, seriously, I really need to hear that.
8, ownership. This is a very important point. Daily Wire will own all of the content created herein and will own all of the DW created channels and brands created by us during the term. And to be clear, we can exploit those channels, brands, and content in perpetuity at our sole discretion. What does this mean? Well, it means just like all of the back catalog that Crowder would have been bringing over, we would have a license to have that all over at Daily Wire Plus during the 4 to 6 years that Crowder was here. But at the end of that 4 to 6 years, he would take all that content with him. A little bit different with the content that we're paying, tens of millions of dollars for during the course of that content would always stay with us. We would have a sort of perpetual right to monetize that content even after Crowder would leave. And, if Matt Walsh were to leave the Daily Wire, presumably at some date in the future, well, what as a woman would stay here? Because we paid for that. We paid for the marketing of it, the production of it. We paid him for the time in which he created it. And so this contemplates something very similar. We would still have the right to the things that we make. As far as channels and brands, I'll get to that in just a minute because it's addressed more deeply as we go. Adaptation rights. All this says is that anything that Crowder says on any of this content, we can adapt it down into written content and put it up at dailywire.com. So, we already do a lot of this. You transcribe something that Ben says, you transcribe something that Michael Knowles says, and we can put that out as an article.
That's the name I was looking for, Michael Knowles. That's the name I was looking for, Michael Knowles.
They don't actually have to do the work of rewriting their thoughts. 10, additional DW rights, merch rights. It says DW will maintain the exclusive right to create and sell Crowder and Crowder content branded merchandise. and the remuneration for that's already included in the fee. So one of the ways that we can make money, put ads in his show. One of the ways that we can make money, sell subscriptions around his content. One of the ways that we can make money is be responsible for his merch. Now that would mean that we have to pay for the creation of the merch, pay for the marketing of the merch, but we would own the upside.
All right, so, all right, okay. I am back on the Steven Crowder train, and only because it's going to go back and forth. I'll tell y'all this right now, but the reason why Steven Crowder is because he really believes in freedom to do his thing as long as he's producing in an entertaining and educational type of way. And he don't feel like his speech should be held against him when he's doing his thing. So he's built the empire by himself. Mug Club is huge because of him. And you're saying now that all of his merch sales will come directly to you. You're limiting every single part of his brand directly to you so that you can get your money back. I can't roll with that. I can't roll with that. Especially, we still didn't touch on the demonetization part yet. But right now, I do know that a great deal of a ton of entrepreneurs, what they do is they scale and they build other things to move in the event of, just as an extra bit of income and to reach their goals. But you're saying everything that's you, we're going to get our money back. We're going to take over your merch from this point and your ads from this point. We're going to put extra ads on everything, and you're going to muck up stuff. This is what's going to happen.
Email list. DW will maintain the exclusive right to manage, grow, and monetize all Crowder email lists during the term. We have an enormous team here at the Daily Wire, and some of them full-time think about email. So that's a burden that we would take off of Stephen, having to manage his own email list, just like we manage and pay the expenses on the merch. But
that's good though. Having the whole team to manage all of his emails and stuff. But hey, if they getting the money for it,
we'll get the upside of that. Remember, we're trying to fill that 50, 60, 70, $100 million hole and to make profit. And the profit gets poured back in so that we can pay for all the infrastructure, all the technology, and all the other ways that we're fighting the fight. Social media management. This one was something that Stephen seemed particularly aggravated by in his video, although I don't understand why. It says DW will have the exclusive right to manage, curate, and monetize his official Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Snapchat, Rumble, and other social media accounts, excluding his existing personal Twitter and Instagram accounts. So why would we exclude some but not exclude others? Well, we're saying that during the term, we have, of course, he puts his podcast on Apple Podcast. We're the ones monetizing the Apple Podcast. So this is just making clear that, yes, we're selling ads in his podcast. The podcast goes out on Apple Podcast. That revenue comes back to us. We put something up on Facebook. Same thing. We bring in ad revenue off of that Facebook piece of content. But we're going to own that during the term. Obviously, at the end of the term, he's going to get his official Facebook account back. He's going to get his official YouTube account back. He's going to get his official Apple Podcast channel back. But during the term, again, all those people behind us, we've got experts in every one of these platforms, how to optimize it, how to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. And we'll manage that and we'll collect the revenue. But not as Twitter and Instagram, because those are very personal channels. You can't manage someone's Twitter. I can't speak for Candace Owens. I can't speak for Ben Shapiro. If only I could, I would like what they say a lot more. I mean, as you know about Daily Wire, we have a lot of disagreements sometimes between our hosts. Presumably, if I could control everything that they say, there'd never be any disagreements. They would just all be right all the time like I am. But that's not the case. We're saying, of course, he needs to control his own Twitter voice. Of course, he needs to include his own Instagram account. We get this a lot where people are like, Jordan's Twitter has changed since he joined Daily Wire Plus. I have nothing to do with Jordan Peterson's Twitter account.
You do. And that's why he removed his Twitter. I mean, his tweet supporting Steven Crowder's position on what's going on right now between he and Daily Wire. Now, you don't control it by saying, hey, remove it. But you control it by simply being their boss. And him knowing that, oh, wow, I could potentially get in trouble with Jeremy Boring if I keep this tweet up here supporting Steven Crowder. So, yeah, you kind of do, brother.
I don't have login credentials for his Twitter account. I've never asked him to tweet anything or not tweet anything. That'd be way outside of the bounds of what's acceptable because that's a very personal medium, Twitter, very personal medium, Instagram.
I mean, you can't say don't tweet this and don't tweet that, but you can say stuff like, I sure would hate it if something happened to your job. I sure would hate it if, the contract just got voided out.
It also says that we will have the perpetual and exclusive right to create, own, manage, curate, and monetize any and all social media accounts that we create based on Crowder's content or shows. What's that about? Well, Crowder already has enormous social channels. He got like 6 million YouTube followers or something. I mean, he's one of the biggest voices in the movement. But what happens if we create a documentary like What is a Woman? Well, sure, you've got Matt's Facebook and Matt's YouTube that are promoting What is a Woman. But we may also want to build a Twitter account, that is at What is a Woman.
What y'all are going to do is Johnson & Johnson that thing. That's what you're going to do. You're going to Johnson & Johnson his name. That's what you're going to do. You realize that he is a brand and he is a product. You are purchasing that brand and product. And you're telling him to sign off on the fact that anything related to you, not only are we responsible for it right now, and we're going to pay you out for it, we're just going to sell stuff on it. But every single thing that you create within these 4 years, we can create other products from those creations. So every single thing you create, we can start a new channel. We can start new brands. We can start all these other things based off of your name. And understand this, if we created it, we get to keep it. So even after the 4 years is done, we own the things that we created. We have full autonomy over the things that we created. But the fact that the thing that he's not mentioning is, without your name, we wouldn't be able to create these things. They are going to make so much more than the 75 million that he keep building up to be such a big thing. Now it's starting to understand. Now I'm getting it.
Or a YouTube account that's just for clips from What is a Woman. Well, that wouldn't belong to Matt. That would belong to us because What is a Woman belongs to us. And that's what this was meant to say, that all of the stuff that Crowder brings over, that's his, Louder with Crowder and all, his Louder with Crowder accounts, all of that. Well, that's his. We're going to manage it for him during the term. We're going to monetize it during the term. At the end of the term, all of that's going to go back to him. He said that was not what it says in his video that he released, but you can read right here. That's exactly, he gets all of, it's only during the term that we control that. But the things that we make based on the content that we make, well, that belongs to us because
I told you based off of the things, but it's going to be based off of him. He's the product.
the content belongs to us. So those channels have to belong to us. Those would never match anything like the magnitude of the channels he's created for himself, obviously. 11, exclusivity. Should go without saying, if you're going to pay somebody $50 million, you're going to have exclusivity. They can't go make content for people who compete with you. You don't pay someone to go work for the competition. But there's carve-outs. Of course, he can go do non-regular guest appearances if Tucker wants to have him on, if Fox and Friends wants to have him on, if he wants to go do a hit with Glenn Beck or something. He can go do that. He should use good faith efforts to coordinate them with us. And this is important. See, he won't have the right to run any personal subscription or donation effort. He can't have a Patreon or a Locals or any sort of paid fan club while Mug Club is part of DW+, right? We're the ones who are going to own subscription revenue during the term. So I think all this is very fair and very obvious to anyone. You wouldn't pay somebody $50 million to then compete with, have them work for your competitor, and you wouldn't pay them $50 million to have them compete directly against you.
How many people does he have in Mug Club right now? Because this right here is the fees are coming together. Because I'm starting to see it from the eyes of Steven Crowder. And guess here's the thing. After all of his fees and whatnot, of just him paying others, and he is coming off better working for himself than working for you all. He is. And then when he fully understands, like I'm sure he already does, every single product that he create from here on out, if he does it himself, it will always belong to him. It will always be his property. And what he makes from it will be his and his alone. Now, he do also realize that he will have to incur the fees to create these items. See, that right there is attractive to a creator or to talent who have a machine behind them the producers and the cameramen and everything else that comes with this documentary per the contract will be paid for by Daily Wire. That's attractive. But if Steven Crowder is already extremely well versed with producing a show, which he has shown time and time again, he can produce a show. He's cool with producing his own documentaries and getting whatever money he comes from it. He's also not cool with selling Mug Club down the river for a $50 million contract. If you're saying right now you can't start a Locals, you can't start a Patreon, we're not going to pay you to commit. I mean to receive money from our competitors, and everything Mug Club will be ours. He's like, nah. I built Mug Club. Mug Club are here because they are like our most, people that have been supporting me forever. And now the subscriptions are going to you? No, this doesn't sound right. So yeah, they're all business people in this, but he's getting down to the nitty gritty of it.
Now here's this section that I know Stephen was very offended by, and I think he misunderstood and therefore misrepresented. Fee reductions. There's a different fee reduction for all those kinds of contents we created. Daily content. If he fails for any reason to deliver 192 episodes of the daily show, or if he fails to include the ads that we agreed to or the promotions that we agreed to in those episodes, then we'll give a $100,000 reduction every time. What's that about? Well, again, you can't pay someone any amount of money, but you certainly can't pay them an unimaginably huge amount of money for their show and then not get the show. So what this is saying is you don't have to produce a show every day. You don't have to produce 260 or 250 or 240 or 230 or 220 or 210 episodes a year. You got to produce 192 episodes a year. You can film some of them in advance. You can stack them up. All of that's contemplated in there. You could shoot on a Friday so that you can take 2 days off next week. But if you don't give us 192 episodes, we can't pay you the same amount of money as if you did give us 192 episodes. So this is just, you give us 192 times 4 minus 1, then out of your 50 million, we're hitting minus 100,000.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that one. But I want to hear more about the demonetization part, the other things, the things he can't control. That's what I want to hear about.
Stephen said that this was unfair, that if he had a sick day or got in a car wreck, we'd dock him $100,000. But I think that's just totally inaccurate for two reasons. One, presumably if he was sick this Tuesday, he could just shoot an episode next Friday and you'd be completely even. He's got an awful lot of extra time in the year to shoot these additional, to shoot any episodes to make up. And second of all, it's actually contemplated a little bit later what happens if there's a disability. In fact, we'll just skip right to it. It's item E. In the event of temporary disability or serious illness that prevents Crowder from performing, the fee will be reduced on a pro rata basis, not subject to the fee reduction mentioned above. What does that mean? Well, instead of a sort of punitive fee because he's choosing not to do the right thing, in that situation, you'll just reduce it by dividing the total amount of money contemplated, by the number of episodes, just subtract that, which I think is, again, incredibly fair. If you're being paid $1 for every box you deliver 10 boxes, you get $10. If you deliver 9 boxes, you get $9. That's a different concept than if you just choose not to deliver it, in which case we're going to subtract a little bit extra. And again, you pay somebody $50 million, you should get the work. Monthly and quarterly content, well, this is more valuable content and there's less of it, so the fee is higher, $250,000 if he misses that kind of content. Annual content, well, this is the most.
The monthly and quarterly content. The monthly content would be, and he said is more valuable. So I'm guessing those are the mandatory monthly Q&As. All right. Are those, and y'all said they were via Zoom? Is that what you said? Were they via Zoom? Please let me know what they were. Because I would love to hear that. So if they're via Zoom, I would like to know that. And there was one more. So it was a monthly Q&A he had to do, and there was a monthly crap. There was something else monthly he had to do. Crap. I wish I would have remembered that. I do remember the Q&A, but that's it.
Most important, most expensive content. If you were supposed to have done a complete documentary this year and you didn't deliver it, well, we're going to subtract $1 million because that's one of the most important high value pieces of content that we asked you to make that year. And
all right, so the quarterly one is only one type of content that he's supposed to do quarterly. And they're saying if you miss that, bro, that's $1 million off, period. You know how much money that brings to the table. The monthly one, they're saying a lot of money comes from that one too. If you miss that, we can't do anything about that. You can't redo that one. That's something that you have to do. I really need to hear more about these fines because he's just rushing through these fines. He took his time through other things. I'm noticing that he's just running through the fine things, the $100,000 off. I mean, that will take from you the $250,000, the $1 million. We went through that really quickly.
And then D just says reset. The fee reduces each calendar year. So, every year you kind of start over. You start over fresh. That brings us to 13, reduction of fee from lost revenue or boycotts. Again, this is one of the points that Stephen really focused on. He says we're enforcers for big tech, that we're doing big tech bidding, that we're punishing content creators if they run afoul of big tech. And first of all, that's just personally incredibly offensive. It's incredibly offensive to have your friend and ally in 10 years of fighting this fight alongside one another, coming up together, say that you're not sufficiently conservative, say that you're I think he said in the video that we're worse than the left, that we're doing harm to the conservative audience and harm to the country, that we're not sufficiently at odds with big tech. Obviously that's ridiculous. You'll see that it's ridiculous as we go through this and I explain it. It's absurd on its face. We get content strikes all the time. We get demonetized all the time. We get shadow banned all the time, just like all conservatives do. We're investing tens of millions of dollars every year into technology to try to create alternatives. That's a long-term project. No one has built anything. Rumble is not a true competitor to YouTube yet. I hope that they become one. But right now, YouTube has many billions of people use YouTube and many millions of people use Rumble. It's a long-term investment to build these alternatives, and Daily Wire Plus is an alternative platform. But right now, we all still are dependent for getting our message out to have access to big tech and to monetize our content. We have to have access to big tech. That's where the audience is, and it's where the money is. It's also where Steven Crowder has made his entire name. He's the biggest conservative YouTube star of all time. He put out his video criticizing us in this contract as not being sufficiently conservative. The number one place people will view it is on YouTube. And that's not wrong. That's where people are. Of course they're going to watch it on YouTube. Of course he's going to put it out on YouTube. That's where the audience is. Now, Stephen might respond by saying, yes, but I don't make any money off of YouTube. I have been demonetized there. And that's a point that we'll talk about here. Nevertheless, obviously, you and I and everyone else, when we go to YouTube to watch Steven Crowder may be demonetized and he may not make any money. YouTube, though, still makes money off of us. And so in that way, Steven is still driving success for YouTube. It's unfortunate that YouTube has chosen to cut him out of participating in that success. In fact, I think YouTube is utterly wrong. The only time I've ever talked to the CEO of YouTube It was to criticize her for her treatment of Steven Crowder. I didn't even talk to her about the Daily Wire. I had nothing to say at that moment about Daily Wire. But at that time, they had demonetized Steven. And I used my one audience with one of the most powerful CEOs in the world to tell her that what she was doing to Steven Crowder was absolutely unethical and wrong. So what were we trying to accomplish with this section? Well, let's go through it.
Yeah, I was waiting for him to finish, taking up for himself. Now, he walked us into it. Now, y'all ready to check it out? Because it's about to get dirty. And I'm going to let y'all know if I don't like it. All right, let's go.
The reduction of fee from lost revenue, from boycotts, content strikes, or bans from major social media platforms. A, ad drop. If Crowder is boycotted or dropped by more than 50% of his then extant advertising partners, that is, if 50% of the money that he's making from advertisers is suddenly gone, and we're not able to replace that revenue within 90 days, then his fee will be reduced by 25% until such time as the ad revenue has been restored for a period of 90 days, and then it would all reset. Steven says, all the left does is boycott our advertisers, so this just says to the left, your boycotts work and we'll enforce it for you. We will punish the content creator for you. But this isn't about punishing the content creator. This is about if the Daily Wire is going to leverage, I can't stress it, probably $100 million by the time you have marketing and infrastructure costs, by the time you pay for all the legal compliance, all the technology that it takes to support Steven's show and Steven's show, even at the price that we offered for it, which he would have wanted much more, at least $100 million. Obviously, if the show makes dramatically less money, well, then Steven has to make less money because we're making less money. And I brought this up to Steven on the phone, and I said, Steven, if your show, if we guarantee you $1 for your show, and the show makes $1 in ad revenue and $1 in subscription revenue, then how does the money work? Well, it works that $2 come in, you get your guaranteed $1, we get $1. What do we do? What do you do with your $1? Well, you produce your show and you pay yourself. What do we do with our $1? Well, we market your show, provide all the back-end infrastructure, pay for the 250 plus humans who work to make all of this continue to grow. By the way, we don't pay for one single person more than we need. There's no charity jobs. We're not giving our money away. If anything, we're understaffed by 50%. We ask more of our employees than any other company probably in America today. We drive people incredibly hard because our resources are limited, because we're trying to accomplish so much for our values, for our movement. So we pay for that out of our $1, and then we pay ourselves. But that's how it works. I said, if the next day one of the dollars, the ad $1, goes away, now what happens? Should it be that you said something on your show that caused that $1 to go away? Now you keep your $1 and we make $0? I said, that wouldn't make any sense. Obviously, you would have to lose a little and we would have to lose a little. I said, we're trying to sort of emulate the idea of a joint venture. And Steven said, no, you should lose all the money. It's your business. And I said, well, Steven, how would we have a business? Why would we be in business? And how would we stay in business? And Steven, this is a very important point. Steven, again, I think the most entertaining, talented person in the conservative movement. I think one of the most entertaining and talented people in entertainment generally in the country today, has created a very successful content generation company, a very successful production company. But Steven's never had to create the company that actually distributes, markets, and monetizes.
What it sound like to me? Okay, so far. Okay, I'm gonna let y'all know this. Okay, first of all, I'm not Team Crowder and I'm not Team Daily Wire. This is what I am. Okay. This gentleman is explaining how much money they are going to spend to produce Steven Crowder's show. He's saying that if you say something that's triggering enough that your shows are demonetized, that's on you. That's on you. We are not covering that because it don't make sense to us. You know what I mean? Well, how did this and how did that? That makes no sense. If I give you $1, I got to make $2 so I can pay my 250 employees who help with producing your show, and then I pay myself. The reason why I call BS on that is it is not a secret that Steven Crowder has been demonetized. You decided to bring him into a contract that you knew you would not be able to fulfill because you know that he is demonetized. You know that he's a loose cannon. You know he says whatever he wants to say and do whatever he wants to do. But you're dangling a carrot in front of him that says 50 million or maybe 75 million, depending on how we renegotiate this. It might be something really huge, but that's a lot of money. Come on now, that's a lot of money. It sounds like Daily Wire will completely win that trade more than he would, more than Steven Crowder would. If that makes any sense. It's not as lopsided as trading Brittany Griner for the Machine of Death or whatever his name is. It's not that lopsided. It's not that lopsided, but it's definitely lopsided, and it's in favor of Daily Wire. So you're talking to another businessman who also is trying to make money just like you. And if y'all, it's like no, we're not going to support you. No, for what? You're losing us money. Why will we pay you? That comes off as extremely disrespectful and demeaning, whether you emailed him or you called him, or whether you approached the what's her name, Judy. You approached a lady from YouTube saying, "I don't appreciate you doing this to Steven Crowder." Like that was your only audience, that only time you had a meeting with her, and you decided to use it to take up for Steven. Bless you. You're taking up for your future investment. That's also a little bit self-serving. Now it comes off like you're doing it to make sure you take care of Steven and that you're looking out for Steven's well-being. But what you're trying to do is secure your investment. Like, can you stop demonetizing my guy? I'm trying to pick him up. He's going to make a poop ton of money for me. So if he makes a poop ton of money for me, everything works out for everybody. No, it seems like Daily Wire will get the most of it, and your talent will get what they get. Especially if you already know the lay of the land. You already know that when certain people say certain things, they get demonetized. You already said it. Conservatives usually are the ones. You said it. So how fair is that to go against your conservative talent, to tell them that if you're conservative, the likelihood of you being demonetized is very high, and we're not going to pay you what's on this contract. We're going to actually pay you a quarter of it because we're losing a lot of money. What you expect? And it's the same thing over and over and over again. And your talent are looking at you like, yo, where's the support? Because you already know that they're going to come for me. You already know that they've been coming for me for the last 6 years. So why again would I sign my life over to you? It just doesn't make any sense so far. I'm sorry.
All of that content. He talks in his video about being one of the only true independent conservative voices. And I find that incredibly offensive. Steven, the whole time I've known him, has worked for someone else, has been paid by someone else. That doesn't mean other people tell him what to say. He's a very independent voice, and that's good. So is Matt Walsh. So is Candace Owens. So is Ben Shapiro. So is Michael Knowles. So is Brett Cooper. But Steven, as much or more than any of them, a very independent voice. But he's not exactly a self-made man. That's not true. He was paid by PJTV when I met him, which was owned by a billionaire at the time. Then he was paid by CRTV for a number of years, which was owned by a billionaire at the time. Then he was paid by The Blaze, which was subsidized by a billionaire, until Tyler Carden, one of the real genius businessmen in our movement, turned the company around and made it profitable. During all of that time, Steven drove a ton of revenue. He's incredibly valuable. I'm not suggesting that he wasn't driving value. He was. I'm only saying he didn't have to build all of that. He didn't have to think about it. And he didn't necessarily have to be profitable. And he doesn't know for a fact that he was profitable because, as he has said very publicly, all those companies, none of them really shared all the information about what was happening with them. So Stephen feels very certain that his show was always profitable, but he doesn't know that his show was profitable. And even if it was, what became of that profit? Most of that profit almost certainly was reinvested into growing the infrastructure and growing the technology and growing the marketing and growing the compliance. That's how business works. And if you're the Daily Wire, we're a very successful company by conservative media standards, and we're a tiny fraction of the smallest legacy media company. If we're going to make one of the biggest investments we've ever made in talent, which is what we were offering Crowder here, an amount of money that puts all of our investments at risk. I mean, if it doesn't work, you're not going to be able to make that kids' entertainment content. You're not going to be able to make that those movies and TV shows. You're not going to be able to continue to do things like sue the federal government to stop the vax mandate. You're not going to be able to do things like deploy investigative journalists to Virginia where they uncover the Loudon story that changes the course of a gubernatorial election.
He's not lying. It takes a lot of money to do these things. He's not. That's all I have for that. Like what he's mentioning right now, it takes a lot of money to do. So again, and like someone just said, best auntie ever. I agree with you. It just was a good. It wasn't a good fit for Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire. It just wasn't a good fit. That's it. And what he's saying actually makes sense, but it's for the good of Daily Wire. Does he believe that Steven Crowder will be everyone believed that their offer is the best when it comes to negotiation. Like the value that I'm adding to you is a little bit more than the value you're adding to me. Wouldn't you agree? No, I don't agree. I believe that the value we're adding to you is a little bit more than you're adding to us. But we feel you are valuable enough to invest into you because we can all do great things if we come together. Nah, you're trying to take advantage of me. That's what you're doing. So it's so many different ways to look at this right here. It really is. I mean, I like the fact that he's breaking it down, but not only is he breaking it down, but he's a little bit of, CMA going on. They used to say that all the time when I was working for the federal government. Make sure you CMA. You know what I mean? Cover your ass. Cover my ass. All right? I'm covering my ass.
All of that takes resources. When you leverage 50, 60, 70, $100 million, you're taking an enormous risk. You're putting all of that at risk. You don't do it cavalierly. You do it because you believe, and I do, that Steven is worth it, that he's incredibly valuable. But it is still a huge risk. There's also a time factor. He might drive all that revenue, but what if it takes a year or even 18 months to bring over those Mug Club subscribers, to get those advertisers spending, right? Well, you're losing 8 figures a year in the interim or 7 figures a year in the interim while you're doing that. So you can't just say, we're going to pay you $50 million even if the show doesn't bring in any money. That's not punishment. First of all, $50 million minus 25% is not punishment by the standards of any human being in the world today, right? That's not punishment. That's just reality. He would still be being paid millions and millions of dollars, and we would be actively working with all those people that we're paying out of our cut to go find new advertisers to replace it, at which point he would be making his money again. Same with the content strike. If any major platform, YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, issues a content strike such that Crowder's content cannot be monetized on the platform, then again, there's this 90-day concept, and again, there's this 25% reduction. Now, Steven, when I spoke to him, he was very upset. He said, I've already been demonetized on YouTube. That's the kind of thing in a negotiation. You scratch through that with your red pen and you say, Steven's already been demonetized from YouTube, so we can't start the deal at minus 25. You have to already have anticipated that, and that would have been fine. That's just a very common. But if he were making a significant portion of his revenue on YouTube and he lost that revenue, it's not punishing him to say you will make less. We're all going to make less. The real punishment would be if we took all the hit, continued to pay him guaranteed money whether his show makes money or not, and then we lose the business as a result. And now no one pays Steven anything, and no one releases Steven's content. He has to go build it all from scratch in crisis. Ban. The Crowder content cannot be released on any of the major platforms because of his content being banned from those platforms. Then we'll reduce the fee if YouTube 20, if Apple 20, if Facebook 10, if Spotify 10. Same kind of concept. If the content simply cannot appear and therefore cannot not only be used for marketing, cannot be used to grow the brand, also can't be monetized, well, we can't pay him the same as if it was. If you're making 25% of your money on YouTube, and now YouTube is permanently gone, you can't make that money anymore. It's not punishment. And this is really what it comes down to. Stephen's philosophy seems to be, I deserve to be paid millions and millions and millions of dollars, whether my show drives the revenue or not. That's not a business relationship. He's not looking for a business relationship. He's looking for a benefactor. The Daily Wire is not a nonprofit. We aren't benefactors.
That's not fair. That's not fair. Makes sense when you just look at it strictly as a monetization type of situation, but you're not a benefactor. You've done your research into who he is and what has happened with his content for a while. You're not new to this. You're really not new to this. You realize the big name that you are getting on your team. The name alone is huge. Having that name on your roster that not only extends his ability to produce different shows and whatnot, it also extends your brand and your team. With him comes millions of supporters, millions of young supporters. And you're being a bit disingenuous by not pointing those things out, because you're going to make far more from just the base amounts that if he's banned off of these social media platforms, and not that he will get banned, but there's a potential. We don't know. But these platforms can make it up any daggone day to just ban people. We seen what happened with Andrew Tate on platforms that he wasn't even connected to. He didn't even have an Instagram, but he was banned on there. So it's a lot more than what he's saying. I do understand the fact that he's looking for a benefactor. That's a little disrespectful to say, but hey, you're fighting. You're fighting for your brand. So I get it. Say what you gotta say, bro. I think that's cool that you're standing up for yourself and that you're attempting to break it down for the audience and the consumer and the supporters, but it's still one-sided. It's extremely one-sided, in my opinion. Now, people might say, man, you must not understand business. That's why you saying that. Well, guess what? I do not understand business, which is why I'm checking this out. So if I need to stand corrected, I don't mind standing corrected.
We're a business. We only get to eat what we kill. And, at the very beginning, we thought maybe we could do like a joint venture with Stephen where we have the same relationship. There's no guarantee of money. And if there's more money, he gets a cut. And if there's less money, he gets a cut. But we knew, no, Stephen, at his level, his history, his experience, he just needs a big guarantee. He's earned it. But we still have to replicate in the deal some measure of that shared responsibility. And that's all this was meant to accomplish. You say, well, it's the same in the end anyway, because you're still telling him, if you say something YouTube doesn't like, we're taking away your money. Well, no, if YouTube would be the one taking away the money. We're just saying that we can't bear the entire brunt of that. But it's even, I think what Stephen's suggesting here is kind of even more disingenuous than that, because I actually kind of came up with this whole concept by watching Steven Crowder. I mean, I mentioned it before. Stephen created this idea of Piss Off YouTube segment at Mug Club. And I saw it and thought it was genius. What does it mean? It means Stephen can go on YouTube, speak to a huge audience. In fact, most of his audience, that's where they engage with him, right? The subscribers are a very small percentage of Stephen's audience. Mug Club is a very small percentage of his audience. YouTube is the vast, overwhelming majority of Stephen's audience. He can go on there and he can be risque and he can do what he wants to do, but he can be calculated too. And he can say, there are some things that I simply can't say here because these bastards hate free speech. For those things, come over to Mug Club and become a subscriber. And then for 30 minutes a day at the Blaze, he could say whatever he wanted. And I thought that was a genius thing, and I implemented it at Daily Wire because I was inspired by Stephen, who again, very talented guy, very smart guy. This is just meant to say the same thing. Hey, I want you to be thoughtful about what you say on the free part of the show. Doesn't mean I want you to say things that aren't true. Doesn't mean I want you to say things you don't believe. Doesn't mean I want you to bend the knee to big tech. What it means is I want you to preserve the revenue as best you can, preserve the audience as best you can, and then tell people there's a reason we're building these multi-million dollar platforms. There's a reason we have subscribers. It's so that there is a place where they can't take our voice away. They can't tell us what to say. So what should he do? He should go on YouTube. He should talk about the things that he talks about. And then he should say, listen, there's some new study came out about the COVID vaccine, and I want to talk about it, but these bastards at YouTube won't let me. Come over to Mug Club at Daily Wire Plus. Go over there and talk about it. And in that way, we keep growing his brand, bigger and bigger audience, more and more people. We have those revenue opportunities, and Stephen is free to say the things he wants to see.
I kind of agree with that too. I know, listen, I know that a lot of you do not, and you're probably like, oh, he just doing a whole bunch of snake talk. Here's the thing with this. Sometimes in life, you have to apply a level of control over yourself. Sometimes we can be the biggest barriers in our own way. And it's unfortunate that you got to play the game of YouTube, or you can't say certain things in front of their audience, or they're going to find you. They're going to cry like babies because people started complaining. Well, guess what? YouTube is a company too. YouTube have people to appease. Whether it's right or wrong, you are playing in their playground. It is what it is. And if you cannot play fair and you got to throw mud at the other kids, or you got to, pull people's dogs' tails or push people off the swings when they're not looking, then they're going to kick you off their playground. Or they're going to tell you not to come to the playground. They're going to suspend you from the playground, something like that. Then the company that you work with, they are going to make sure that they got their tails covered. You can come over here and do that. What's the difference? Come over here and say whatever the hell you want to say to your people. The thing that makes that a bit, and he said Stephen was being disingenuous. So are you by saying what you just said, because when he's telling people, I'm going to be as much of Stephen as I can possibly be, just not here. Come on over to Daily Wire Plus. Come on over to Mug Club, where we can do that. Those are paid subscriptions that they will benefit off of. Daily Wire will get that money by him building up those platforms with his people. Subdue yourself. Just say the bare minimum just to keep people coming to your videos. And if you got some real thoughts, true thoughts, only say that at Mug Club and Daily Wire Plus. Just tell everyone to come over there, where they have to pay subscriptions, where they're going to make us rich. Smell that stinking money. So yeah, it's extremely disingenuous, but he's covering his tail, man. He's protecting the pot. That's what he's doing. He's protecting the pot.
I don't know why when he read this, he couldn't see that. I don't know why when we talked about it after the fact and he was very upset with me, he couldn't see it. But I find it deeply offensive that he won't give me the benefit of the doubt, and even more offensive that he felt that he needed to air our disagreement about this section publicly. Stephen's my friend. He's my ally. It's just a low move. And I'm sure he thinks he's standing on principle. The problem is, you might even think that, first of all, friendship is a principle. You might think, yeah, but some things have to be more important in the public space than friendship. I don't know if that's true, but let's say that it is true. You have to be right if you're going to burn one of your friends the way that Stephen burned us. And Stephen is wrong. I am not an enforcer for big tech. I am trying to maximize the reach and revenue of my hosts and my company, because no company...
I'm trying to maximize the reach of the host in my company. He's trying to maximize. See, that's the part right there. That's the part. He just said it. This is the part right here. This is the part. Hopefully y'all heard this. Hopefully you heard this part.
And Stephen is wrong. I am not an enforcer for big tech. I am trying to maximize the reach and revenue of my hosts and my company.
I'm trying to maximize the reach and the revenue of the hosts and his company. That's it. And he's telling Steven, yo, if you play the game, bro, we can make so much money. If you play the game, man, we can make so much money. And Steven is like, no, I don't want to play the game, man. Like, this is more serious to me. That's why I've been, demonetized the way I have, because I'm not about playing no games. I want to make money too, obviously. He's a great businessman. He's been doing his thing. But he just don't want to play the game. And, this gentleman is telling him, yo, you got to play the game, man. Play the game. Come on. Don't burn your friends. Come on. I'm trying to, you can be the big fish that really take us over the top. Come on, man. We can make a hit record. He sounded like one of them sleazy music producers from back in the day, but I understand what he's saying. I'm picking up what he's putting down. Some of y'all might not be, but I'm picking up what he's putting down. And I am still not Team Crowder, and I'm still not Team Daily Wire. I have an understanding that's right there in the middle that I can, like, if I had a conversation with these two guys, if they had someone with the same understanding as me, but more information on the business front and more information on content creation front and everything, they can definitely settle this for them. And somebody need to mediate this and let them know that you guys both make great points. Let's find a happy medium. But here's the play. This is not about the people anymore. It's about money. We can make it about the people, but we got to get the money first. I don't know if I believe that, but that's what they're doing.
Because no company spends more money than the Daily Wire directly marketing its talent. We spend tens of millions of dollars every year helping our talent grow, marketing our talent with real dollars. We spend tens of millions more building technology, tens of millions more on staff and support, building expertise, so that we can over time build a completely parallel system, a completely parallel economy. That is not a day's work. That is a generation's work. That is the work that we are engaged in. That's why we've had so many successes. You have been with us for so many of those successes. And I feel like Crowder really threw us under the bus and cheapened that and discredited all of it in saying that we're enforcers for the very people who hate us, the very people who shadow ban us and demonetize us and give content strikes against us all the time. When all we're saying is, no, let's be smart about how we fight them. The rest of this document, you're welcome to read it.
You heard that? He said, let's be smart about how we fight them. You know what? There's some science in that part right there. There's some science in that. I'm not going to get too deep on it, but there's a lot of truth in that one line right there. Let's be smart in how we fight them. Let's not show our hands. We got to be sneaky about it. Can't just tell them what we're doing. We can't just say everything that's on our mind. We got to be adult about this. That point should always be made. I don't give a damn who you are, especially if you want people to be better at things. You want people to get into rooms, read the room. That's helped me in a lot of ways. To instead of doing things by brute force, Van decided to do things the smart way, and it always worked out.
It's just legalese, and what it says is, if we decide to move forward, this isn't the whole document. We're going to have a longer document. We're going to have to negotiate these topics. Confidentiality. We're not going to tell people about the deal. He didn't sign this, so he doesn't have those confidentiality requirements, although I certainly expected some political or, personal and professional courtesy of him not going and reaming us publicly for making him an offer that he didn't like. I don't owe Stephen a job, and Stephen doesn't owe me a show. We opened up a conversation in good faith. We made an offer. He didn't like it. Now he's burning us. That brings me actually to what happened after. I sent this over. I did get on the phone with Stephen.
As Steven Crowder said before, though, it wasn't about him. He said that contract wasn't about him. That contract was him getting a peek behind the veil and understanding what your other hosts were signing. He understood what your other hosts were signing, and to him, it was BS. So it wasn't about him. It wasn't about, yeah, he saw things that was going to affect him directly. He understood those things, but he also have close relationships with a lot of people who are a part of your team. And he didn't understand why why the contract was that way.
Normally, this is the stage where you say, I like this, I don't like that, red line, red line, red line, and we move
Enjoy your birthday, Lisa Marie.
closer together. Instead, Stephen said, I'm not going to redline this. Not going to have my agent respond. This deal is garbage. You need to start completely over. I said, well, I'd like to talk through why we do it. And he listened for a little bit, and he said, well, you're just wrong. You don't know anything about business. My business model is the right business model. And of course, that's unfair because Stephen hasn't run this part of a business before. Stephen likes to say, I'm only on the air because of Mug Club. But Stephen couldn't tell me how many subscribers he had. I said, how many subscribers do you have at the place? He said, I don't know. They don't tell me. And I'm sure that's true. He said, but I'm confident. I guarantee you it'll be 350,000 on day one with no marketing. I hope that's true. But I can't take that risk. I've never seen that to be true. I've never launched any talent with $0 spent on marketing and picked up a third of the total subscribers that the entire Daily Wire has built in 8 years in business. I hope Stephen's right. I hope he makes unseemly amounts of money and is able to continue being an important voice in the movement for years and years to come. But that's not a risk that I could take. Stephen implied that he not only didn't like this $12.5 million a year number that I offered him, but that he thought it should be closer to $30 million a year. That's $120 million over 4 years just for Stephen's show. I would still have to spend those tens of millions of dollars every year that I told you about on things like marketing and infrastructure and technology to support the show, the part that Stephen's never done. As soon as he said that, I knew we'll never get to a deal. I can't guarantee $30 million a year.
He can't run a business that way. He cannot run a business that way. I don't give a damn what side you on, but if you believe that somebody can run a business that way or they ought to run a business that way, you're out your daggone mind. You are out your mind. You want to know I want to hear what Trump will have to say about this. That's what I want to know. I would like Trump's side on this, like an objective, not picking no biases. I would like his side of this right here, just to hear what he has to say.
I didn't know how I was going to pay for 50. I thought, not that he isn't worth it, but that's a big risk. $120 million is an incalculable risk for a company our size. And again, I'm not saying Stephen isn't worth it. I hope he is. I hope he builds his own business. He'll make a ton of mistakes. He'll find out that he's wrong about a lot of how the business world works. He'll learn and he'll grow because he's a smart, talented guy. And I hope he gets to a place where he's proving me wrong and he's making all that money. But that just was not a deal that the Daily Wire could possibly make. And we'd have to pay it even if he lost all the revenue, or even if he lost enormous chunks of the revenue. It was just an impossible situation. And so Stephen said, we're going to throw this deal out. I'm not even going to mark it up. I'm not going to negotiate it. Start over. Send me a new deal. And because of his talent and because of our friendship, I thought about it for a minute. Talked to my partners about it for a few minutes. And I just realized what I already knew in my heart, which is Stephen's not a team player. That's not a knock. He has an enormous individual talent. But he's not going to be happy unless he's out on his own. And so I called him up. I said, hey, we're not going to send a follow-up offer. I want you to hear it directly from me, not from lawyers and agents. I said, but the kind of deal you're looking for is not the kind of deal that we can make. He was super gracious, appreciative, kind. We agreed to continue forward as we always had as friends. We do favors for each other. I told him, if you stay at the Blaze or if you go off on your own, go to Rumble, go wherever, we're going to continue to write stories about you and promote you and have you on. Like, you know, we want you to be as successful as humanly possible, and we want to contribute to that. And we went our separate ways. And months went by. October goes by, November goes by, December goes by. And then a week ago, in January, Stephen called me. And he said, hey man, I can't unsee this contract that you sent me. Well, it's not a contract, it's a non-binding term sheet. It's a conversation starter, but okay. And he told me his perspective on it, that we were not paying him what he's worth, that we don't understand his great business mind, and that it's going to go exactly the way that he thinks, and we're all going to be proven wrong. I said, again, I hope that's true, Stephen, but that's not a risk I can take. And then he said, and you're just an enforcer for big tech. You're hurting young talent. I said, well, Stephen, first of all, no two talent in our company have the same deal. Every deal is different because there's different circumstances. This is the kind of deal you make to protect a 9-figure investment. You can't pay 9 figures in expenses, even if the revenue dries up. That isn't possible. It's not prudent, but it also isn't possible. And he wouldn't let it go. He was very angry. And I got very flustered. I didn't expect him to be calling and laying into me the way he was. I'd never experienced it before. I didn't make the best defense of the deal that I probably could have because I was so caught off guard. I mean, I made a decent defense of the structure of it, but I was really taken aback. And then I told him, well, I'll take it under consideration, bud. And we got off the phone. And then I wake up yesterday and he puts out this video laying into us the way that he did. And, he redacted parts of the document. He didn't name us by name. And I'm sure on some level that was meant as a courtesy. But all it really did was create suspicion in our audience. I know a lot of you have been out there defending us, saying, well, this couldn't have possibly been the Daily Wire. And I don't want to be the guy who 3 weeks later, Stephen or someone else says that it was the Daily Wire and you feel betrayed. Like, why'd these guys leave me out to dry? I appreciate your impulse to defend us, but we don't need to be defended. This is a fair offer. It's an offer that would have been negotiated. I would have paid him more. The fees would have been lower. Fee would have gone up. Penalties would have gone lower. Number of work days probably would have shrank. He would have done a little bit less content, and we would have inched our way like this, either to a deal or not to a deal. That's not how Stephen chose to operate. And now we find ourselves here where we're having this public dispute. I'm having a public dispute with my friend of the last decade, which is one of the saddest things I've ever faced in public and professional life. It's just a horrible thing. But I do owe it to those of you who are out there defending us. I owe it to Daily Wire Plus subscribers to say, yeah, it was our offer. I'm proud of the offer. I think it was innovative. I think it was meant to make sure that we could mutually succeed. I don't need to tell you that we're committed to fighting the left. We fight the left as hard as anyone. You might say, well, you guys are wrong sometime. Ben was wrong about this one time, and you were wrong about that one time. And yeah, we don't claim to not make mistakes. This actually isn't one of our mistakes. This is a great, respectable offer that we made to a good friend of ours, a mega talent, and now it's been misconstrued and is being wielded against us kind of as a cudgel. And so just wanted to be transparent with you about it. I'm proud of the deal. I'm proud of what we do at the Daily Wire. I'm proud of the fact that we publish diverse voices that don't always agree with each other, and that means that you're not always going to agree with everything that every one of us says. But I can tell you with a clear face, I'll put our conservative bona fides up against anybody. I'll put our hard work, determination, and success rate up against anybody. And I'll put our audience and our fans and our Daily Wire Plus members up against anybody, any day. We are moving the ball forward. And it's unfortunate that Stephen said otherwise. So what should you do? Should you run over and cancel your Mug Club subscription? Should you go attack Stephen in the comments? No, none of that. In fact, if you're not a subscriber to Mug Club, you should head over to mugclubforever.com right now and subscribe. Stephen's one of the most important voices and most talented voices in the movement today. We need him to succeed. We need him to be big. We need whatever he does next to be huge. You just need to know that he was wrong about this. You need to know that we didn't betray you. We didn't betray the conservative movement. We didn't. We won't. We'll keep fighting. And with your help, we'll keep winning.
All right. Yeah, sound off. I'm sure y'all have already lit up the comment section, but yeah, this is interesting. That was really nice of him to send people over to Mug Club, and he's still playing that friend role, man. He's like, that's my friend. I want him to be big. I want him to do great. As a matter of fact, if you're not already signed into Mug Club, go over there. Go sign up to Mug Club. But he's wrong about this. This was dope. I'm glad I checked it out. Thank you for asking me to check this out. I learned a whole lot. And hopefully some of what I learned, I'm able to take to my own next level.